application to appeal his 35-year sentence continues in the South Gauteng High Court today. Krejcir and 5 others are seeking leave to appeal their convictions and sentences for attempted murder, kidnapping and drug dealing. His legal counsel argued yesterday that the accused were convicted and sentenced on charges of drug dealing, despite the fact that the drugs were never identified by an expert. Well, somebody who's been following that story for us is Gillian Pillay, and we cross to her now just to catch up with her to find out how day one went. A very good morning to you, Gillian.
A very good morning to you, Peter.
All right, so take us through
Peter,
day
just to
one.
give you a sense of what transpired in court yesterday. Yes, Peter?
Carry on.
Just what transpired in court yesterday, Peter, you know, as we said earlier, there was a lot of security, a lot more than what we've seen in the trial. But this time round, as a sentenced inmate, Krejcir was accompanied by correctional services. I'm sure you saw in those pictures, he was heavily shackled. There was very little mobility for him. But just to talk about some of the submissions, as you mentioned there, some of the other important submissions that were raised during yesterday's proceedings, Peter, was this, you know, there was testimony given that Krejcir was the mastermind during this whole spree. And what the defense says is that the court relied on probabilities. There was no proof beyond reasonable doubt that Krejcir indeed was the mastermind. Other factors was that, yes, the drugs, there was no drugs found. So how is one able to gauge that there was intent to deal in a substance? And in the South African law, Peter, there is no, you can't be sentenced or convicted for an unknown substance. Another factor that was brought up was during the sentencing hearing, in which the defense says the judge failed to hear Krejcir's testimony, that the judge didn't take Krejcir into account. He represented himself, various requests were denied, and they said that brought the court to this very inappropriate, shockingly inappropriate sentence, as the defense labeled it, Peter.
All right, so how strong is the submissions being made? Were you able to gauge with other lawyers perhaps just how strong some of these arguments are?
It's very difficult to gauge with Judge Lamont. Very, very robust submissions being put forward, looking at inconsistencies of witnesses, but the state saying that, you know, it's these probabilities that inform the court to come to these very hefty sentences that was handed down to the group in Feb, Peter. Very difficult to gauge what Judge Lamont would come to. We're expecting some sort of a decision later this week. It could possibly be before the end of the month, Peter, but it's very difficult at this juncture really to gauge which way the judge is going to go, if this leave to appeal will be granted. But if it's not, Peter, they can petition the Supreme Court of Appeal directly. So if this avenue fails, there is still another avenue that this group has at its disposal, Peter.
All right, Gillian, we'll leave it there for the time being. Thanks very much indeed for that update. Day 2 of Radovan Krejcir's application to leave to appeal his conviction and sentence.